Today's video is targeted for more senior types of roles, particularly if you expect an intense behavioral interview. And I know I coach many of you with pretty impressive CVs and with an impressive track record of achievements. And one pitfall of your answers when we roleplay was that you were trying to fit into that STAR template, for example. And this is also because some of you are used to an interviewing style that is very much a lot more stricter, very much to follow the rules of the game, on the interviewing game that is the STAR format in this case. Whereas nowadays the expectations have, I'd rather say, evolved than changed. You see, there's much better ways to communicate than just to strictly follow the STAR format. I'm not saying that you should not follow it, but I'm saying that you can do so much better than following a template. The first scenario would be you could transform the STAR format into a SAR format to simply omit the task, or you could call it the PAR to talk about the problem, the action, and then the result. Right, so this would be simple modification. Another scenario that you might want to consider would be to either compress your answers, for example, to have a 2-minute answer with all the more relevant information, or the other extreme would be to expand your answer to have a 10-minute answer in which you would put emphasis on whatever you feel is the most interesting. Maybe you have an interesting concept to explain that is not necessarily, a main part of that STAR template. So ideally speaking, when you get started preparing for a behavioral interview, you could write down, pencil down your thoughts into a STAR format if you want. But as you progress in your preparation, as you role play, you should reach a level where you understand what's important, what's key, what's the most important idea to transmit, and ideally why the question gets asked, and touch exactly on what they're actually looking for from you from that question. Another approach to answer these behavioral questions, and actually this one is taught in business schools, is to start with a general statement. For example, if you're getting asked what's your management style, well, you could start with a general statement paragraph, what your management style is, what you think about management, and then eventually you could, if your introductory statement is not too long, you could even talk about specific instances where you would highlight what you said in your general statement. Or if your general statement is on the longer side, then you could ask, hey, do you want me to get into specific, what type of examples are you looking for here, right? So you could ask them. You could start a conversation this way, so you don't even have a STAR answer at all, even if the question is considered or could be considered a behavioral question. Or another trick to answer these STAR questions, these behavioral questions, would be to have multiple STAR answers. For example, what's your weakness, right? We could say, what's your weakness is a behavioral question because it talks about your behaviors primarily. And you could even employ a scenario where you touch upon 3 weaknesses, and for each of those weaknesses you give a smaller STAR answer. That is also something that I've heard people using quite successfully. So use your imagination. It's perfectly fine to use your imagination in order to focus on giving the best possible answer. Of course, knowing the constraints, if you want, or the preference that these companies give. And truth be said, Amazon states on their jobs website that they prefer the STAR format, right? So it's no secret there, but still you can take these things one step further, because I'm primarily talking here about senior types of roles. So this is the key idea I wanted to transmit here, that there's really, you can go even further than the STAR method, and you should definitely consider tuning up the way you communicate these answers, because it would be a pity to have high quality stories and not to be able to communicate them in the most efficient possible way during an intense behavioral interview. So hopefully you found this useful, and thank you very much for watching.